Disciple.
Disciple.
He was also an avid reader and a disciple of Tolstoy.
Disciplinarian.
Disciplinarian.
Dad was a strict disciplinarian.
Disciplinary.
Disciplinary.
The investigation led to disciplinary action against 2 officers.
Discipline.
Discipline.
The book gives parents advice on discipline. Serious discipline problems in the police force.
Working from home requires a good deal of discipline.
Martial arts teach respect, discipline and cooperation.
Learning poetry is a good discipline for the memory.
The officers were later disciplined.
Different cultures have different ways of disciplining their children. Different cultures have different ways of disciplining their children.
Try to discipline yourself to write every day. Disciplined.
Disciplined.
Skilled and disciplined workers.
Disc jockey.
Disc jockey.
Disclaim.
Disclaim.
Martin disclaimed any responsibility for his son's actions. Martin disclaimed any responsibility for his son's actions.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
Disclose.
Disclose.
Some companies have already voluntarily disclosed similar information.
He refused to disclose the identity of the politician.
It was disclosed that £3.5 million was needed to modernise the building. It was disclosed that £3.5 million was needed to modernise the building.
Disclosure.
Disclosure.
The disclosure of private medical information. Disco.
Disco.
The school disco.
Discolor.
Discolor.
Discoloration.
Discoloration.
Discolor.
Discolor.
Once cut, apples quickly discolor.
Discombobulated.
Discombobulated. Discomfit.
Discomfit.
He was discomforted by her silence. He was discomforted by her silence.
Discomfort.
Discomfort.
If the exercise causes discomfort, stop immediately.
To her discomfort, he laughed.
The discomforts of air travel.
Discompose.
Discompose.
Disconcert.
Disconcert.
A disconcerted look.
Disconcerting.
Disconcerting.
A disconcerting question.
Disconnect.
Disconnect.
Always disconnect the machine from the mains first. The family agreed to disconnect her life support system.
2 freight cars disconnected from the train engine.
Disconnect Part A from Part D.
11% of households were disconnected for non-payment of bills.
Divorced men can too easily become disconnected from their children. Divorced men can too easily become disconnected from their children. The disconnect between the ordinary public and the concerns of politicians.
Disconnected.
Disconnected.
Disconsolate.
Disconsolate.
He was disconsolate after his divorce.
Discontent.
Discontent.
Discontent with the current government is strong. Discontent with the current government is strong.
There is widespread discontent at the quality of education.
Perhaps she sensed my growing discontent.
Discontented.
Discontented.
She became increasingly discontented with her work.
Discontinue.
Discontinue.
Bus route 51 is being discontinued. A discontinued China pattern.
Discontinuity.
Discontinuity.
The policy discontinuities between the present and previous governments.
Discontinuity in economic development.
Discontinuous.
Discontinuous.
Discord.
Discord.
Marital discord.
Discord within NATO. Discordant.
Discordant.
The modern decor strikes a discordant note in this old building.
Discordant results from the experiment.
Discotheque.
Discotheque.
Discount. Discount.
Members get a 15% discount.
Employees can buy books at a discount.
The young person's rail card gives you a discount on rail travel.
Discount airfares to Europe.
Experts discounted the accuracy of the polls.
General Houskin had not discounted the possibility of an aerial attack. General Houskin had not discounted the possibility of an aerial attack.
Games were discounted to as little as $5. Games were discounted to as little as $5.
Discounter.
Discounter.
Discount rate.
Discount rate.
Discourage.
Discourage.
Attempts to discourage illegal immigration.
My father is a lawyer, and he discouraged me from entering the field. You should not let one failure discourage you. You should not let one failure discourage you.
Aspirin may discourage tumour growth in some types of cancer.
Discouraged.
Discouraged.
A lot of players get discouraged and quit.
Discouragement.
Discouragement.
In research, times of discouragement alternate with times of great achievement.
The discouragement of smoking.
Discouraging.
Discouraging.
The results were discouraging.
Discourse.
Discourse.
A discourse on art.
Candidates should engage in serious political discourse.
A study of spoken discourse.
Discourteous.
Discourteous.
It would be discourteous to ignore his request.
Discourtesy.
Discourtesy.
Discover.
Discover.
The body was discovered in a field.
Forest Service crews often discover campfires that have not been put out completely. Forest Service crews often discover campfires that have not been put out completely.
The exercises let students discover math concepts on their own. The exercises let students discover math concepts on their own.
She discovered that she was pregnant.
His friends were shocked to discover how ill he was.
The Curies are best known for discovering radium.
At 14, Louise discovered boys.
A band that's waiting to be discovered.
Discoverable.
Discoverable. How can we make our business more discoverable?
Discovery.
Discovery.
The Hubble telescope allowed astronomers to make significant discoveries about our galaxy.
The discovery that bees can communicate with each other.
The discovery of oil in Alaska.
Discreditable.
Discreditable.
Discreditable dealings.
Discredit.
Discredit.
The company's lawyers tried to discredit her testimony.
His theories have now been discredited.
To his discredit, he knew about the problem but said nothing.
The behaviour of fans has brought discredit on English football.
Discreditable.
Discreet.
Discreet.
He assured her that he would be discreet.
I stood back at a discreet distance.
Discreet jewellery.
Discrepancy.
Discrepancy.
Police found discrepancies in the two men's reports. Police found discrepancies in the two men's reports. There's a large discrepancy between the ideal image of motherhood and the reality.
Discreet.
Discreet.
The change happens in a series of discrete steps. The change happens in a series of discrete steps.
Discretion.
Discretion.
The awards are made at the discretion of the committee. Promotions are left to the discretion of the supervisor.
People want to have more discretion over their working hours.
The judge exercised his discretion rightly to admit the evidence.
The committee has the absolute discretion to refuse applications. British newspapers no longer feel they must treat the royal family with discretion.
Discretionary.
Discretionary.
The court's discretionary powers.
Discretionary income. Discretionary income.
Discriminate.
Discriminate.
Under federal law, it is illegal to discriminate against minorities and women.
It was found that the company still discriminated on the basis of race in promotions. It was found that the company still discriminated on the basis of race in promotions.
Newborn babies can discriminate between a man's and a woman's voice. The process of learning to discriminate fact from opinion.
Discriminating.
Discriminating duty.
Discriminating readers.
Discrimination.
Discrimination.
Laws to prevent discrimination.
Widespread discrimination against older people in the job market.
Discrimination in favour of university graduates.
Shape discrimination.
Discriminatory.
Discriminatory tax.
Discriminatory hiring practices.
Discursive.
Discursive.
A long discursive article.
Discus.
Discuss.
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 Lippmann refused to discuss the case publicly.
If you would like to discuss the matter further, please call me. Pupils should be given time to discuss the book with their classmates.
Your accountant will discuss with you how to complete these forms.
This topic will be discussed in Chapter 4.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Class discussions.
The topic suggested for discussion.
The discussion of important issues.
High-level discussions about trade and commerce.
The embassy will continue discussions with the Chinese government.
We have had discussions about her legal situation.
The project is under discussion as a possible joint venture.
The report's discussion of the legislation.
Discussion list. Discussion list.
The Mercedes-Benz discussion list.
Disdain.
Disdain.
She watched me with disdain.
A look of complete disdain.
His disdain for capitalism.
Childcare was seen as women's work, and men disdained it. Childcare was seen as women's work, and men disdained it.
Butler disdained to reply.
Disdainful.
Disdainful.
A disdainful look.
Professors who are disdainful of popular entertainment.
Disease.
Disease.
She suffers from a rare disease of the brain.
His father died of heart disease.
She contracted the disease while she was abroad on holiday. Loneliness is a disease of our urban communities.
Diseased muscles.
A diseased plant.
Disembark.
Disembark.
Disembodied.
Disembodied.
Disembodied spirits.
Disembowel.
Disembowel.
Disenchanted.
Disenchanted.
By that time I was becoming disenchanted with the whole idea.
Voters expressed growing disenchantment with the government.
Disenfranchise.
Disenfranchise.
Disenfranchised.
Disenfranchised.
Disengage.
Disengage.
Sally found it difficult to disengage herself from his embrace.
Disengage the gears when you park the car.
He tapped in the code and the lock disengaged. Too many young people disengage from learning. Too many young people disengage from learning.
Disengaged.
Disengaged.
Teenagers who are depressed or disengaged from their families. Disentangle.
Disentangle.
It's very difficult to disentangle fact from fiction in what she's saying. She had just disentangled herself from a long relationship.
Disestablish.
Disestablish.
Disequilibrium. Disequilibrium.
Disequilibrium.
Disfavor.
Disfavor.
The job creation program is looked upon with disfavor by the local community. The job creation program is looked upon with disfavor by the local community.
Coal fell into disfavor because burning it caused pollution. Coal fell into disfavor because burning it caused pollution.
Disfigure.
Disfigure.
His face had been disfigured in an accident.
A disfiguring disease. Disfranchise.
Disfranchise.
Disgorge.
Disgorge.
Cars drew up to disgorge a wedding party. Cars drew up to disgorge a wedding party. Chimneys were disgorging smoke into the air.
The Mississippi disgorges its waters into the Gulf of Mexico. The Mississippi disgorges its waters into the Gulf of Mexico.
Disgrace.
Disgrace.
Smith faced total public disgrace after the incident.
Toranaga sent us away in disgrace. Toranaga sent us away in disgrace.
His actions brought disgrace on the family.
There was no disgrace in finishing fourth.
The UK rail system is a national disgrace.
You are a disgrace to the medical profession. It's an absolute disgrace the way he treats his wife.
How could you disgrace us all like that?
I'm not the one who disgraced herself at the wedding.
Disgraceful.
Disgraceful.
It's a disgraceful waste of taxpayers' money.
Their behaviour was absolutely disgraceful.
It is disgraceful that anyone should have to live in such conditions.
Disgruntled.
Disgruntled.
A disgruntled client.
Disguise.
Disguise.
Maybe you could disguise yourself as a waiter and sneak in there.
He escaped across the border disguised as a priest.
There's no way you can disguise that southern accent.
A letter bomb disguised as a musical greetings card.
Try as he might, Dan couldn't disguise his feelings for Katie. There's no disguising the fact that business is bad.
The speech was seen by many as a thinly disguised attack on the president.
His disguise didn't fool anyone.
She wore dark glasses in an absurd attempt at disguise.
The woman in the park turned out to be a police officer in disguise.
Tax reform is just a tax increase in disguise. Disgust.
Disgust.
Joan looked at him with disgust.
Sam threw his books down in disgust and stormed out of the room.
Much to my disgust, I found that there were no toilets for the disabled.
Nelson's disgust with US politics.
The fans didn't hide their disgust at the umpire's decision.
He reached into the bin with a look of disgust on his face.
Edward tasted the thin, sour wines with disgust. Edward tasted the thin, sour wines with disgust.
Many parents claimed to be disgusted by the amount of violence in the film.
Dear Sir, I was disgusted to see the picture on page 1 of Sunday's feature section.
It disgusts me that he got away with it. The thought of eating insects disgusts me.
Disgusted.
Disgusted.
Disgusted onlookers claimed the driver was more concerned about his car than about the victim.
Most locals are disgusted by the anti-foreigner violence.
Animal welfare workers were disgusted that anyone could do this to a puppy.
Disgusted of Tunbridge Wells.
Disgusting.
Disgusting.
Rubbish was piled everywhere. It was disgusting.
Smoking is a really disgusting habit.
£60 for a 30-minute consultation? I think that's disgusting.
That's a disgusting thing to say.
They're disgustingly rich.
Dish.
Dish.
A serving dish.
An oven-proof dish.
A large dish of spaghetti. I'll just do the dishes before we go.
A wonderful pasta dish.
The menu includes a wide selection of vegetarian dishes.
This soup is substantial enough to serve as a main dish.
A soap dish.
She's ready to dish on boys, beauty and breakups in her new column.
We dished out some leaflets there too. Paul tends to dish out unwanted advice. Paul tends to dish out unwanted advice. Sam's dishing out sandwiches if you want one.
Could you dish up the vegetables?
Disharmony.
Disharmony.
Dishcloth.
Dishcloth.
Disheartened.
Disheartened.
If young children don't see quick results, they grow disheartened.
Disheartening.
Disheartening.
It's disheartening to see what little progress has been made.
Disher. Disher.
The movie role of the light-hearted Hollywood disher.
Dishevelled.
Dishevelled.
Pam arrived late, dishevelled and out of breath.
Dishonest.
Dishonest.
Dishonest traders.
People on welfare are wrongly seen as lazy or dishonest.
A person is guilty of theft if he or she dishonestly obtains property.
Dishonesty.
Dishonesty.
Dishonour.
Dishonor.
You've brought enough dishonor on your family already without causing any more trouble.
He dishonored the uniform and did not deserve to be a Marine.
Union leaders accused management of dishonouring existing pay agreements.
Dishonourable.
Dishonorable.
Surrender was seen as dishonourable.
Dishonourable discharge.
Dishonourable discharge.
Dishpan.
Dishpan.
Dish rag.
Dish rag.
Dish towel.
Dish towel.
Dishwasher.
Dishwasher.
Dishwashing liquid.
Dishwashing liquid.
Dishwater.
Dishwater.
Dishy.
Dishy.
Disillusion.
Disillusion.
I hate to disillusion you, but I don't think she's coming back.
Disillusioned.
Disillusioned.
As she grew older, Laura became increasingly disillusioned with politics.
Disincentive.
Disincentive.
High interest rates can be a disincentive to expanding a business.
Disinclination.
Disinclination.
The increasing disinclination of farm workers' children to consider a job in farming.
Disinclined.
Disinclined.
I was disinclined to talk to Sam about it.
Disinfect.
Disinfect.
First, use some iodine to disinfect the wound.
Disinfect the area thoroughly.
Disinfectant.
Disinfectant.
Disinformation.
Disinformation.
Government disinformation about the effects of nuclear testing.
Disingenuous.
Disingenuous.
Keeping the details of the tax changes vague is disingenuous.
Disinherit.
Disinherit.
Disintegrate.
Disintegrate.
The plane just disintegrated in mid-air.
A society disintegrating under economic pressures.
The disintegration of the Soviet Empire into separate republics.
Disinter.
Disinter.
She disinterred 2 frozen TV dinners from the freezer.
Disinterest.
Disinterest.
The exception to Balfour's disinterest in social issues was education.
Disinterested.
Disinterested.
A lawyer should provide disinterested advice. Disintermediation. Disintermediation.
Disinvestment.
Disinvestment.
Disjointed.
Disjointed.
Disjointed fragments of information.
Burley was critical of his team's disjointed performance.
Disjunction.
Disjunction.
A disjunction between the skills taught in schools and the skills demanded by employers.
Disjunctive.
Disjunctive.
Disk.
Disk.
Disk drive.
Disk drive.
Diskette.
Diskette.
Dislike.
Dislike.
Why do you dislike her so much?
I dislike being the center of attention. She shared her mother's dislike of housework.
Truman had a strong dislike for communism.
His colleagues regarded him with intense dislike.
They took an instant dislike to each other.
A good hotel manager should know his regular guests' likes and dislikes.
Dislocate.
Dislocate.
I dislocated my shoulder playing football.
Communications were temporarily dislocated by the bad weather.
A dislocated elbow.
A period of economic dislocation.
Dislodge.
Dislodge.
Ian dislodged a few stones as he climbed up the rock.
The revolution that failed to dislodge the British in 1919.
Disloyal.
Disloyal.
He felt he had been disloyal to his friends. Dismal.
Dismal.
The future looks pretty dismal right now.
A dismal, grey afternoon.
The team's record so far is pretty dismal.
Her scheme was a dismal failure.
Dismantle.
Dismantle.
Chris dismantled the bike in 5 minutes.
An election promised to dismantle the existing tax legislation.
Dismay.
Dismay.
They stared at each other in dismay.
I found to my dismay that I had left my notes behind.
The thought of leaving filled him with dismay.
The poor election turnout dismayed politicians.
Dismayed.
Dismayed.
Ruth was dismayed to see how thin he had grown.
They were dismayed at the cost of the repairs.
We are dismayed that the demonstration was allowed to take place.
Dismember.
Dismember.
Dismiss.
Dismiss.
The government has dismissed criticisms that the country's health policy is a mess.
He just laughed and dismissed my proposal as unrealistic.
It's an idea that shouldn't be dismissed out of hand. Bryant was unfairly dismissed from his post. Employees can be dismissed for sending obscene emails.
The class was dismissed early today.
The case was dismissed owing to lack of evidence.